Good evening. Our Game Changers discussion for the 30th of April. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Yeah, and like Yopi said, thanks Yopi for being our moderator again tonight. And then everybody that's joining us and everybody that's on its way or on their way to join us. I hope you get some benefit from tonight and we can have a nice discussion and see how we're going to solve this retirement crisis. Hi, Brian. Nice to see you. Yeah, let's not waste too much time. Let's get going and let's chat a little bit about the retirement crisis. What are we going to do about it? Why are we sitting in this crisis? Why is it an important time for us to talk about it now? I mean, we're sitting in the middle of lockdown. Everything, if you open News 24, you open any of the news channels, all you hear is COVID, coronavirus, lockdown. What's happening? And we tend to think that just the last thing we need to think about at this time is our retirement. And I tend to disagree. I think in this time is specifically the time that we have to start seriously thinking about where are we going with our financial life? How are we going to solve this retirement puzzle? How are we going to make sure that we get you guys to get to retirement and be comfortable and retire rich and happy? That's the name of the company. So how are we going to get you guys there? So let's start talking about the retirement crisis and why we are sitting in this retirement crisis. And then after we've spoken about that, we're going to talk a little bit about the 5 steps and how we're going to solve this problem and how we're going to make sure that you guys can retire comfortably. And not just retire comfortably for yourself, but also create generational assets or generational wealth for your children that will make it much easier for them. So if you're not that serious about your own retirement, think about your children's retirement. We all want to give our children better than we ever had. So let's first look at what have we done. In the last 70 to 100 years, we followed the 40-year plan. So that's what we've been taught. Our parents did the same plan. We've been taught the same plan, and it's called the 40-year plan. What does that entail? The first thing it entails is it says get a good education. Once you've got a good education, whether it's get your matric or go to university, get a good education there, the next step is to find a proper job, a good job with a good salary, preferably with some pension fund or some group benefits, etc., etc. Then you start living within your means. So make sure that your expenses are less than your income, and then save as much as you can for the 40 years. So you start working at, say, 25 after all your studies, and you start saving until you are 65 years old. Once you're 65, you stop working, and then you start living off your savings. You invest that savings, and that should give you enough income to enjoy your golden years. So I think if we all look at that, and it's a very simplistic view of it, but that's basically what we've been taught over the last, and what people have been taught for the last 100 years, 70 to 100 years. And we also tend to think that the way our parents have retired and the way we have been taught to retire is the way it's always been, but it hasn't. It's only for the last 70 to 100 years that we've really followed this 40-year plan. I mean, the first retirement annuity was only developed and launched in 1957. So that is about, 63 years ago. That was when the first retirement annuity came out. So this way of looking at retirement isn't that old. It's not like it's generations and generations and generations of people that's been retiring this way and it's worked for them. It's basically 2 to 3 generations. So what has this given us? The first thing is 96% of people who retire in South Africa and across the world can't maintain the same standard of living once they stop working. So that is a scary thing. That means that this 40-year plan has a 96% failure rate. So following this plan will give you a 96% chance that you're probably not going to maintain your standard of living once you get to retirement. The second thing is 58% of people who retire expect to continue working after formal retirement. And most of them do it out of necessity, not because they choose to, not because they've got a hobby or they've got a little business or something that they enjoy doing. It's they have to, otherwise they can't maintain their same standard of living. 54% of people in South Africa who has less than 10 years away from retirement, who has less than 10 years left before they retire, are saving for retirement. Only 54%. So what that means is that almost half of people with less than 10 years left to get to retirement aren't saving anything for retirement. And that is scary. That for me is a very, very scary statistic. 41% of employed individuals have no retirement plan. And here we're talking about employed individuals. We're not talking about self-employed people, who is a very large percentage of our population. Self-employed individuals, people with their own businesses. We're talking about employed individuals. I think if we look at the self-employed, the business owners, the guys who work for themselves, generate their own income, I think it's even less than that, much less than that. And then 74% of people only started their retirement plan after they were 35 years old. So that shoots the 40-year plan out of the window in any case, because if you're 35, the best you can hope for is 30 years. So in my opinion, we are facing and we are seeing the death of traditional retirement. The way that we've been planning for retirement, or that we've been taught to retire, isn't working, and it's not going to work. And why is that? A lot of people ask me, but why isn't it working? If we did this, and the story, and one of the big motivations why I started this company was my dad. My dad started working on the mines. He worked for the mines for over 40 years. He never had any debt. He saved in his pension fund. He did everything the retirement plan, that 40-year plan tells us to. He doesn't have unnecessary debt. He saved every month. He had his pension fund, retired, bought his house cash, and about 5 years after retirement, his income from his pension fund wasn't enough to support them anymore. And I looked at that picture, and that was round about the time I walked into the financial services industry in 1999. And I looked at that plan and I said, but if my dad did everything they tell you to do, and it still didn't work, then there must be a mistake, or there must be a problem with the plan or the strategy, not necessarily with the people following the strategy. And please listen to me. I'm not saying everybody's following that strategy, because most people aren't. I'm saying that even if you do, chances are you're still not going to get to the retirement that you wish. So why is that? So there's a couple of reasons why I think it's not working. The first thing is the traditional retirement plan is only focused on capital assets. It's all about saving. Save, 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 so that you have money in the bank, money in an investment, money in an endowment, money in a retirement annuity, money in a pension fund. It's all around capital. And I'll talk a little bit about why capital isn't enough. The second thing is the traditional plan teaches us to become passive investors. So what is a passive investor? A passive investor is somebody who signs a debit order or works for a company. The pension fund or the insurance company or the financial institution comes every month. They take money out of their account. It goes into some fund, in a retirement annuity or a endowment or some kind of fund. And the client doesn't really know what's going on with his money. He doesn't really know where it's invested, what's the return he's going to get. He just hopes to help that these companies, these guys actually do something with their money, and it will be enough. And most people have no idea what enough is. They think that if they put 1,000 Rand a month away into a retirement annuity, they'll be okay. And I've seen it so many times. I sit with people and they say to me, I want to retire with 30,000 Rand a month in today's money terms. And I say, okay, so what are you doing for retirement? No, I'm doing quite a lot. I'm putting 1,000 Rand a month away into a retirement annuity. And I say, okay, so tell me, how does 1,000 Rand suddenly turn into 30,000 Rand a month? 1,000 Rand a month suddenly converts into 30,000 Rand a month. It doesn't make sense. That 1,000 Rand cannot grow into 30,000 Rand a month. It's not going to work that way. So only becoming a passive investor and hoping that somebody else will solve the problem for you is not going to work. And that's why we are seeing these statistics. The next thing is, and this is one of the most important ones, is people overestimate the value of capital. especially when they get to retirement or when they reach retirement age. Because again, I talk to people and they say, yeah, but my uncle retired and he was fine, or he is fine. And I say, well, how long ago did he retire? No, last year. I say, wait 5 years, because usually it's about 5 years after retirement where these problems start kicking in. And the reason for that is because people typically make this calculation in their head. They say, well, I've got 3 million Rand in my retirement annuity. I'm going to invest it at 10%. That's going to give me 300,000 Rand a year, and that's going to give me about 25,000 Rand a month. I'm going to be okay with 25,000 Rand a month worth of income. And then I only live off the interest because I'm getting 25,000 and I'm not going to spend more than 25,000. The problem with that is that next year you don't need 25,000. Next year you need 27,000 to have the same buying power as 25 today, which means that with inflation, you're going to need more money, but your capital can't generate more than 25 with the interest rate that you're getting. So now what needs to happen is that other 24,000 Rand, that 2,000 Rand a month, has to come out of your capital. What that creates is you now starting to eat up a little bit of your capital. So the next year you need 29 or 30,000, but your capital is less, so you have to take more of the capital to get the same amount of income. And then you get into what I call the death spiral, where people take more of their capital to get the income, but they need more income, so they take more capital. And when they realize, at first it goes very, very slowly. But when they suddenly realize that, oh shit, I'm in the death spiral, it's too late. Because by that point, when it becomes a reality, it's the capital has been eroded so much that it's very, very difficult for you to get yourself out of the death spiral. So that's the three main reasons. We focused on capital assets. We are passive investors. We expect the insurance companies, the investment houses to make our money grow to these ridiculous amounts. And then we overestimate the value of capital. So before I get into the future of retirement and how do we solve this, if you guys have any questions, you are welcome to add it onto the page. I'll try and answer the questions either throughout the session or at the end of the session. I'll quickly run through some of the questions. So you're welcome to answer or ask any questions. So what is the future of retirement? So the future of retirement is, for me, all retirement is around this. So when I started doing research on how do we solve this problem, this was around 2000, 2001. I said, but how do we solve this retirement crisis? And as I started researching it, it was actually a very simple solution. So the solution is very simple, but to make it happen is not that simple. But the solution is very simple. The solution is passive income. Because if you look at retirement, retirement is actually all built around passive income. What happens with retirement, it says that what you earn and what you do is interlinked while you're working. So you do something, you get paid. You don't do something, you don't get paid. So these two are interlocked. Then throughout your life, you save as much as you can. And then one day at age 65, these two go, boop, it disconnects. And now what you do and what you earn doesn't have to be connected anymore. But the problem is it's not a once-off event, because a once-off event is when you just focus on capital. It should be a slow progression of slowly disconnecting what you do and what you earn from one another over a period of time. And that you do by slowly building passive income streams. 500 Rand a month, then 1,000 Rand a month, then another 500 Rand a month, then another 1,000 Rand a month. And slowly you replace your active income with your passive income until you reach what we call your breakout point. Your breakout point is when your active income and your passive income are equal. Because once you have enough passive income to replace your active income, you are free, because then you don't need the active income anymore. So I don't know if I now said passive income with active income, but you guys get the idea. So once your passive income exceeds or equal to your active income, you have the choice. You are free. If you decide, but listen, my job, my business, what I do is my passion, it's what I really want to do with my life, then you continue doing it. But you have the security that even if you don't work, like what we're seeing in lockdown, like what we're seeing with this thing that's happened that nobody could predict. In this scenario, if you lose your active income, your passive income will still carry you. If you decide, but my active income, what I'm doing, my job, my business, is not what I want to do in my life, it's not what I enjoy doing, then you have the choice to go and do whatever you want to do, because you're not doing it for the money anymore. You're doing it for the passion, for what you really want to do in your life. And that for us is we need to redefine what retirement means. We've been taught that retirement is the day that you stop working. What we teach people is you need to start looking differently at retirement. Retirement is not the day that you stop working. Retirement is the day that you do what you do because you want to do it, not because you have to do it anymore. The idea is not to have a whole bunch of 45-year-olds or 50-year-olds lying on a beach somewhere and never having to work again and not become productive people in society. The idea is to create people who have the freedom to really go and live out their passions, to make a difference in other people's lives, to make a difference in the world without that stress of I have bills to pay at the end of the month. So that is what the future of retirement is. You need to start disconnecting now what you do and what you earn from one another, so that what you earn is not directly related to what you do. And again, I think we've really seen in this period of time that we're in now, it's an unprecedented time that we live in, where we really see how important this is, that what we do and what we earn aren't interlinked. Because the moment people stop doing what they do, the earnings dried up. And we can't have that. You can't have financial security if you have that situation. The next thing we need to do if we want to move to the future of retirement is we need to start focusing on 3 types of assets, not just one type of asset. So what is the 3 types of assets that you need to look at? The first one isn't capital assets. We've been taught to focus on capital assets first. The first one is not a capital asset. The first one is business assets. So what is a business asset? A business asset is any business entity, business asset that generates an income for you. Currently, most of you, your business asset is you. And now you're going to say, yeah, but I'm not a business. I work for a company. I get a salary. That's not. You are the business. You are the asset. You sell your time, your expertise, your skills to a company for a specific amount of money. So you are the asset. You are the business asset that generates the income at this stage. What you want to create is other business assets that creates leveraged income. And we talk about creating transformational businesses, not transactional businesses. So when you look at building a business asset, you want to create a transformational business asset, not a transactional business asset. So what is the difference? Transactional business asset is built around what do you do or what can you do? And the problem with that is now you are doing it. And that's basically all of us working for a company as an employee is in a transactional business. You do something, you get paid for that thing that you did. Most people, they give that up. They start their own business, but they do exactly the same thing. They're still doing it. And they only get income once they are doing it. A transformational business is not about what can you do. It's about what can I teach other people to do and earn money through leverage. So that is what you want to do. And if you want to do or want to get some more info about transactional and transformational businesses, I'll have a webinar very soon about that specifically. What is a transactional business? What is a transformational business? And how do you convert your transactional business into a transformational business? So the first thing is you need to build business assets. Business assets will bring more revenue. That revenue will then be put into a capital asset. So that is our second asset class, capital assets. So, but the capital assets that we use is a place to park your capital until you can move it into something better. Where we've been taught that the capital assets is the end goal. The capital asset is where the money goes, and that gets invested, and that stays there until 65 so that you can live off the interest. We talk about capital assets as a place where you park your capital until you move it into a better investment. And that's the third one, and that is fixed assets. Fixed assets are assets that you invest in that will generate income from the asset, not what you do in the asset. So those are the 3 types of assets that you need to look at. You can't just focus on one. And this is what we teach people is we're not saying that what they are teaching people about retirement is wrong. We're saying it's incomplete. Yes, you have to save. Yes, you have to put money into capital. But that is not the whole picture. You have to do more with it than just leave it in capital. So what is the 5 steps to retire rich and happy? So what we've done over the last, where are we now? 18 years. So we started in 2002. This year we turned 18, and the company has evolved over time. Initially, our focus was how do we help people to build business assets? That was basically the main thing, so that they can build business assets that generate passive income. But then we learned that it's much more than that. It's not just building passive income through business assets. There's a process that needs to be followed, and then we created the 5-step process. So what is the 5-step process? The first step is invest in yourself. So why do we say invest in yourself? We say invest in yourself because you are the biggest asset you will ever own. You are the goose that lays the golden eggs. If it wasn't for you, nothing that you have will ever have been there. The car that you have, the house you stay in, the income you get, that's all up to you. You need to invest in yourself. And this goes much further than just finance. This goes into health. This goes into wellness. It goes into keeping yourself healthy and fit and all of that. But what we focus on is finance. And we want to focus on getting people's financial education. We come from an education system that for generations have taught us how to become good employees and earn an income. But it's never taught us what to do with that income once we've earned it. Think about it. Think back to when you were at school. How many hours were spent on teaching you how to do a proper budget, how a credit card works, how do you buy a house, how does that whole thing work? Well, how does a will work? Why is it important to have risk cover in place? How does risk cover work? How do you invest? What kind of things can you invest in? So we never taught these things. So it's important that what we do is we first need to get the education behind us so that we understand what we're doing, because we want to move from being passive investors to being active investors, being actively in charge and in control of our own destiny and our own finances. So that's the first step, invest in yourself. So the education part is built on 2 legs. The first one is the theoretical portion, where you go and you learn the theory behind this. And a lot of that is when we do these webinars, we do the Financial Freedom Forum, all of those things are there to teach you the theoretical knowledge of the financial plan or the financial game. But then you need the practical side as well, the implementation side, because knowledge alone is not power. The implementation of knowledge is power. And a lot of people have that knowing-doing gap. So what happens is they learn these things, they know what they need to do, but they just don't do it. We all know takeaways is not good for us. We all know it's not healthy, but we still go and we buy those takeaways because there's a knowing-doing gap. There's a gap between what we know we should do and what we actually do. And for that and that practical side, we've created a coaching program where you get, or you can get, a personal wealth strategist that works with you. He takes you by the hand and he basically teaches you exactly what you need to do. He's there to answer your questions. He's there to support you, and he's there to keep you accountable, because sometimes we need to be held accountable as well, because it's so easy. It's so easy to bullshit ourselves. We can justify everything for ourselves. And in life, we do. We just find these excuses. So if you have a wealth strategist, you have a coach that goes and just asks you, and you have to explain why you've made certain decisions, it makes it so much easier to be disciplined. The key of this as well is, and the first thing that we focus on once we start working with a client, is to take control of your cash flow. That is one of the core principles of taking control of your whole finances, is you have to take control of your cash flow. You need to understand how much money comes into my portfolio, where is it going, and how much is left. And most of us have no clue. We have an idea of how much money we're generating, but usually only after tax and deductions. A lot of us don't even know how much money we get as a gross income. We just know what gets paid into our account. And because we don't know what the difference is between what we're actually earning and what we're getting in our account, we don't do anything to limit the cost or the expense of tax, of all of these deductions. We just accept that it's there. And there's a lot that we can do there to make sure that more money hits our account. The second thing is we have no idea, we have no control of our cash flow. About 70%, 65% of people have no budget. They literally have money coming into their account, they spend, debit orders go off, and they hope to hell there's money left at the end of the month. About 33% have a basic budget. 32 to 33% have a basic budget, which means that they have an idea of what their big expenses are. So they know this is how much money I get. These are my house payments, my car payments, my debit orders, This is what I've got left. But they have no idea what their unforeseen expenses is, what their spending looks like, what are they spending on takeaways, those kind of things. And only about 3% of people have an in-depth budget that focuses not only on the foreseen and the big expenses, but the unforeseen and the small expenses as well. And those 3% have more financial security than the other 97% combined. So it's critically important to take control of your cash flow. You need to start looking at your cash flow as a company. Because this is the thing, when you look at a company and you look at your own personal finance as a company's purpose is to generate assets, generate profit. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that at the end of the month, you have a profit left. If you don't have a profit left, what's going to happen? You're going to get deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have such a control of your cash flow that you always have a positive cash flow at the end of the month or a profit. The next step, once you've taken control of your cash flow, the next step is to say, we need to minimize your risk. Why is this important? If you look at any financial plan, any business plan, everything starts with managing your risk, making sure that those unforeseen things that could happen, make sure that your life and your dependents' lives can continue in the same manner as they were used to if one of those things happen. Not better, just the same. That's the foundation of your whole financial plan. We can have the greatest investment plan, the greatest cash flow, but if something happens that takes away your ability to generate an income and that income stops coming in, suddenly that whole plan of yours falls flat. So we need to make sure that that foundation of yours is solid. The focus there is not to focus on what or to beat what you've got. What typically happens in the financial services industry, a person comes, a financial advisor, a broker, or somebody like that, and they look at what you've got and they try and beat what you've got. So they say, well, you've got 3 million life cover with company A. We're going to give you 3.2 million life cover with company B for the same premium. And then you go, well, that sounds good. Let's do that. The problem is, do you need 3.2 million life cover? Is it enough? Is it too much? Is it too little? Why? Why do you have 3.2 million life cover? So what you want to do is when you focus on minimizing your risk, you want to focus on what do you need, not what have you got. So you need to look at, if I have 3.2, why do I need 3.2 million life cover? Okay, 1.2 million is there to pay off all my debts, make my estate solvent, and the other 2 million gets invested into for my wife and my kids, and that will give them 6,000 Rand a month. That is how you look at it. You can't look at it from beating what you've got, because you want to spend as little money as possible on risk expenses. We call that what if money. It's money that you pay a third party for in case something happens to you. You don't want to pay more money to somebody that for in case something happens to you if you don't need to, because that money can be used to build assets. The next thing is, we also want to, under minimizing your risk, want to get rid of your unsecured debt. You want to create a debt settlement strategy to get rid of this unsecured debt. So what is unsecured debt? It's all the debt that you have that is not secured by an asset. For example, your house is a secured debt. The property is security for the loan. Your credit card is unsecured debt. There's no property, no asset that is underlying the loan. And those are the expensive debt. You want to get rid of that debt as quickly as possible. because that is the biggest killer of your cash flow. If you look at your personal situation at the moment and you just quickly in your head go and calculate how much money are you spending every month on debt, on personal loans, on credit cards, on clothing accounts, furniture account, etc., etc. Just quickly do that calculation in your head and multiply that by 12 and see how much money per annum you could have put into an asset instead of paying it to a bank to pay interest. You want to convert the money that you are paying into interest into money that is gaining interest for you as quickly as possible. Once we've done that, once you've gotten rid of your unsecured debt, you've taken control of your cash flow, we then move to step 3 of the process. And the step 3 of the process is called become an entrepreneur. Now we want to start focusing on creating alternative income streams, or what we call MSI, multiple sources of income, through building business assets. Currently, until this point, you were the business asset. Everything was focused around what you do. Now we want to start building assets, or that builds something that builds income without your personal involvement. Maybe some involvement initially, but later on that business must start generating an income without your personal involvement. But here's the key. That income needs to be used in a different manner than what you do with your normal income. And what we teach people is to define the income that you get, whether it is lifestyle income or it is freedom income. So lifestyle income is the income that you get usually from your primary source of income, and that funds your lifestyle. It pays for the house, the car, the clothing, those kind of things. Freedom income goes somewhere completely different. It's not part of your lifestyle income. And this is why it's so important that we take control of your cash flow first. Most people think that they are in financial trouble because they're not earning enough money. They think it's an income problem. But what we've realized is that it's not an income problem. It's a financial management and expense problem more than it is an income problem. So if we don't take control of the cash flow first, and we go and we then just add more income to the portfolio, what's going to happen? The expenses are going to expand, and that money is just going to go into a black hole. And that's what most people do. They start a business, a part-time business, when they need the money. And then what happens is they make that extra money, it goes into the black hole because they have no control over their cash flow. The expenses expand, and then it's not extra money anymore. It's just more money. And now they can't live without that money. If that goes away, suddenly they're in deeper financial problems. So we first take control of cash flow, then we start building alternative income streams, and we divert that money to a different area, and we call that your free bucks account. Your free bucks account is a flexible investment account where we park that money, expose it a little bit to the market, get some growth, but it's parked there until you can move to step 4 of the process. We call that getting to your investment level. So investment level is where you are ready to move to step 4 of the process. So what is step 4 of the process? Step 4 of the process is then to invest in income generating assets. Income generating assets is any asset that generates an income as a result of the asset, not what you do in the asset. So the most well-known one is property. Now, that doesn't mean that property should be the only thing you look at when you invest in income generating assets, or if that property is the only way to invest in income generating assets. But for this example, it's the easiest one because most people understand. So what happens is you get a property, you buy that property, you rent that property out, the property generates a rental income. You don't have to go to that property every day, go work there to generate the income. The property generates the income. That is an income generating asset. So what you then do is you take that capital of yours that you've built in your free bucks account and you invest it into an income generating asset. The key here is that that income generating asset must create a positive cash flow. It must create a profit from the beginning. Here's where people get it wrong. They start investing in property, but the property costs them more than they're getting in initially. So they get 8,000 Rand a month, but the property's expenses with a bond, the rates and taxes, the levies, the insurance, all of that is 10,000 Rand a month. So it's costing them 2,000 Rand a month to have that property. Then it's not an income generating asset yet. It's only an income generating asset if it generates positive cash flow, if it generates a profit. If you don't, your whole spiral, your whole momentum will stop. You have to have a positive cash flow. That positive cash flow is then defined as freedom income. Because it's freedom income and not lifestyle income, it goes back into your free bucks account. And if you can imagine it in your mind, what now happens is you now have two income streams coming into your free bucks account. You have your business asset that is generating income, and you have your first income generating asset generating income. Now you'll achieve or reach your investment level quicker. Once you reach your investment level, you wash, rinse, repeat. You take that money, you put it into the next income generating asset, and that creates another positive cash flow. Now you have three income streams creating a capital asset. And then we create what we call a generational wealth spiral. You create an income that creates a capital asset. The capital asset creates an income generating asset, which creates more income, which creates another capital asset, which creates more income generating asset, which creates more income. And that spiral starts building quicker and quicker and quicker as you go along. Is this overnight success? Is it going to take you the next 6 months and you can go and retire in Zanzibar? No, it's a process that's you're going to have to follow for about 10 years to get you there. But once you've built it, you'll reach breakout point and you'll be free. And that's the other thing. A lot of people ask us, but how long does this take? And then I say to them, well, usually it takes about 10 years. And I say, 10 years? I have to do this for 10 years? I think, but you're doing the 40-year plan for 40 years without asking, with a 96% failure rate. But it's going to take you 10 years to get there, and that's too much work. You need to be able to commit to this for a 10-year process. And in 10 years, you'll be able to retire financially. So that is step 1 to step 4. And step 1 to step 4 is all about retiring rich. Whatever rich means to you. And rich is a very subjective thing. You could be rich in time, you could be rich in freedom, you could be rich in security, you can be rich in money, you could be rich in assets. Rich is very subjective. Whatever rich means to you, you can achieve through this. But we are about retiring rich and happy. And step 5 is all about retiring happy. And step 5 is called pay it forward. We encourage people, if you've learned these steps, if you know how this works, if it's worked for you, if you've done it, go out and teach other people how to do it. Because true happiness, true contentment doesn't come up through getting everything yourself. It's making a difference in somebody else's life. That's why I do these things for free. I want to share these messages for free with as many people as possible. Because that is where true happiness comes from. You can achieve anything you want in life if you help enough people achieve what they want to have in life. So it's very important that you take this, and not just from these principles, but anything that you can do to make a positive contribution to somebody else's life. Pay it forward. Do something to help somebody else. But if you educate, even if it's your children, if it's people that you know, if you educate people on this and you teach them, what happens? That starts another person at step 1, invest in yourself. Because through your example, through your inspiration, they go into investing in themselves, which creates a circle, and it closes this loop of people that can be taught again, and they can then help other people, and we can make a difference. We can really stop this retirement crisis. We can make sure that the next generation, our generation that gets to retirement, doesn't have a 96% failure rate, because we are heading for a disaster. And if we don't do something different, it's going to be a nightmare for people. If you keep doing what you've been taught to do, and if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll get exactly what you got. For things to change, you have to change, and the way we do things have to change. So it's important that we start looking at this differently. Guys, thank you for listening. that is my story for today. If you have any questions, you are welcome to ask a question. I got a question from Shanae, but I see Jaapie has already answered it. Oh, no. Oh, he said I'll answer at the end of the talk. So let's read Shanae's question. What about if your transformational business also gets affected by unforeseen circumstances like COVID? Well, Shanae, there's a lot of different things that you could do in minimizing the risk in a business. It all depends on what kind of business you have, what your transformational business is about. You can have income continuation cover as an insurance product, etc., etc. Transformational businesses, although it's not directly influenced by what you do, it's still a business. So these kind of things can happen, that you can get affected by that. That's why that is only one of the steps to get to true financial freedom. We can't say to people, just build a transformational business and you'll have financial independence and you'll get to your breakout point. That is the step to get you to building the business after the fixed assets to get you there. So yes, the transformational business can get affected by something like this as well. There is insurance when you do your risk management plan for that, but that is why you want to move from there to build income generating assets as quickly as possible. Okay, Tanner, let's look at your question. What should an 18-year-old do to create these income assets? Or the first thing to do to start to create the path to financial success? Like most who earn peanuts, 4,000 Rand, what can they do? Please give an example. Okay, Tanner, thanks for your question. So firstly, if you're 18 years old and you're already listening to these kind of talks, that's one of the first steps you do, is learn as much as you can, invest in yourself. That's the first thing. So I want to congratulate you for taking this time and actually sitting and listening to me. So you're on the right track already. The second thing you want to do is you want to immediately start and make sure that you take control of your cash flow. Even if your cash flow is small, keep your expenses smaller. Make sure that you know exactly every month what money is coming in and where the money is going. And don't get excited about that instant gratification, buying the nice smart TV immediately, or taking out a store credit card for clothes, etc., etc. Keep control of your cash flow. Look at every month and make sure that you have a positive cash flow at the end of the month, and start putting that money away into a capital asset so that you can start building assets moving forward. The next thing I would do is immediately, once you've done that, once you've made sure that you have control of your cash flow, and an extra 1,000 Rand or an extra 500 Rand a month is not suddenly going to increase your expenses, you then start looking at how can I earn an extra 1,000 Rand, 2,000 Rand, whatever extra a month. Because here's the key. People think that if they start becoming an entrepreneur should earn an extra 10 or 15,000 Rand a month. You can start with an extra 1,000 Rand a month, an extra 2,000 Rand a month, and it can make a massive difference moving forward. You've got time on your hands. Don't get overexcited. Don't get impatient. Take it one step at a time and get the right people to advise you along the road. So I would really suggest that you get in contact with us and talk to one of our wealth strategists and see how they can help you and keep you accountable. I hope that answers your question. Thanks, Mike. I'm glad that you heard the basics. Yeah, they say repetition is the mother of skill. So it's important to hear these things a lot of times, because what happens is you start getting these pictures in your head of how the steps fit into each other. Okay, guys, any other questions? Thank you for listening. We are going to do another webinar in the next week or so. We will keep you informed about the topic, what we're going to do, how to register, etc., etc. Please like us on Facebook. All our videos go on there. Also subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And if you've learned something, if you've benefited from this talk, please share this with as many people as possible. You're welcome to share once this link goes public. You're welcome to share it on people's WhatsApp. They can listen to it in their own time. You can listen to it again. We also have a competition, so everybody that's registered on this webinar qualifies for the competition. And I'll quickly run through the competition with you guys again. We are giving away, and we'll next week give you the winners. We have 3 prizes that we're going to give away. The first or the third prize is worth 1,500 Rand, and it's a free 45-minute consultation with one of our wealth strategists. So by registering today, you are already in the draw for winning that. It's a 45-minute consultation with a wealth strategist. You can literally sit with them, and they're there to answer your questions, whatever your questions are. It's not them going to try and explain things to you on what we can do and how we can help or whatever. It's about what is it that you want to know. And so they will definitely help you with that. The second prize is worth 3,000 Rand. So that is a free set of all the financial tools, which includes the strategic expense planning tool, which is our budgeting tool, the bond calculator, the debt settlement tool, and an investment calculator. And you get a free financial coaching session. That's about an hour session that you sit with a wealth strategist, and they will show you how we do the cash flow management, how the whole process works. And then the first prize is worth 5,000 Rand. It's a free set of financial tools, the strategic expense planning, the bond calculator, the debt settlement, and the investment calculator, and a free 45-minute consultation with a wealth strategist, as well as a free financial coaching session. So you have about an hour, 45 minutes with a wealth strategist where they'll answer all your questions, and they will take you through a coaching session to explain exactly how the coaching works, what the cash flow management does, how it works, the variable cost segregation or bucket system. All of that will be explained to you guys. Thank you very much for listening. You're welcome to listen to this again. It will be live by tomorrow, I'm sure. And then, yeah, please subscribe. And then I'll chat to everybody next week. Have a great evening.